Right, it's time for us to see the headlines now. Let's go to the newspapers where a lot of them are screaming with different headlines, but really concerning ones this morning. We begin with this Nigeria. This Nigeria says grief as bandits burn Catholic priest to death. Niger police in manhunt for killers as Khan condemns killing. In Katsina, terrorists invade church, abduct 25 worshippers. You find that on the front page of this Nigeria. All right, these are really disturbing headlines in here. From there, we go to the Blueprint newspaper. Terrorists kill Niger Catholic priest, abduct worshippers in Katsina. Bello imposes curfew over murder of Lambata monarch. And police slay 3 ransom-seeking terrorists, 1 other. Khan raises concern over priests killing Reverend Father abducted in Ekiti. All right, that's the Blueprint newspaper. The Abuja Enquirer is next, and it says, Black Sunday, 8 crushed to death on Abuja Highway. Plateau APC declare mourning over 16 PDP supporters. Plateau APC declare mourning over 16 PDP supporters. That's the Abuja Enquirer. Now, the Leadership newspaper is next, and it says, as insecurity in Southeast escalates, gunmen kill 37 police officers in 52 attacks. Imo records highest attacks and casualties. We can't tell the exact number of policemen killed in Ebonyi Command. Ebonyi Command is saying this. We can't tell the exact number of police killed. That's the Leadership newspaper. Now, First News is next, and it says, Edo train attack, police rescue 12 more victims. How joint security forces stormed forest on Saturday night. Police is revealing this. All right, all that on the front page of First News. The Nation newspaper is next, and it says, Tinubu rallies APC leaders, candidates for elections as ex-Lagos governor, governorship, National Assembly standard bearers brainstorm. All right, ex-Lagos governor, governorship, National Assembly standard bearers brainstorm. Tinubu rallies APC leaders, candidates for elections. You find that on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Kemi has the rest.
Still talking about the election, Daily Trust is next, leading with this report that military pledges defense for democracy. And of course, in the light of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day on Sunday, President Buhari, his deputy, Oshibajo, CJN, that's the Chief Justice of Nigeria, as well as governors, hail fallen heroes on Remembrance Day. Of course, ahead of the election, the Chief of Defense Staff is also quoted as saying democracy has come to stay, while widows of fallen heroes lament hardship. This and more on the Daily Trust. Let's see the Daily Times now. Democracy has come to stay in Nigeria. This from General Lucky Irabo, and he is also ruling out any possibility of military coups. That's on the Daily Times. Business Day, of course, leading with business news now, saying CBN's governor Emefiele to be let in without arrest, expected to resign. That's on Business Day. More business stories, this time on Business AM newspaper. And the big report there is economic boom seen for Nigeria on election of right candidate. Right candidate, it says, while analysts are optimistic about economic recovery. Nigerian News Direct is next. Despite Central Bank of Nigeria's directive, bank ATMs dispense old notes. That's from an investigation carried out by the paper. Despite CBN's directive, bank ATMs dispensing old notes, adding that politicians demand too high, making new notes scarce. This is from a source. The Nigerian News Direct says. The Punch. Bank borrowing from CBN rises 260% to 21.87 trillion naira. Bank borrowing there, according to the Punch, rising to about 21.87 trillion naira. National economy now, downstream petroleum sector, while Nigeria finds it difficult to attain full deregulation. That's on national economy. And finally, at this time, is nature news. Environmental rights bodies, climate activists reject the United Arab Emirates Al Jaber as COP28 president. That's on the Nature News, and that's it from me.
Okay. All right. Let's get to some of the stories here. There are really disturbing situations from Niger State and Katsina State. And a Catholic priest, was killed and burned to death in Niger State. And some worshippers were also attacked and kidnapped in Katsina. It's really a troubling situation. The governor of Katsina State has imposed a curfew, and security agencies are working round the clock to see what they can do. But this draws attention to, the realities of insecurity. Now, the point there is we had seen some level of calm in those areas in the last few months. And this coming up now draws attention to some of the rhetorics around preparation for election. When some people said that it seems some persons don't want elections to hold and want to create, that chaos where it looks like nowhere is safe, and so on. But I wonder what you think of this.
It's really a worrisome development. I mean, especially dawning on one, looking at that report in Niger State of how Reverend Father Achi was burned to death in his home. Details, however, are sketchy at this point now. I really cannot, decipher what the motive for that kind of attack would have been, and it's not isolated, by the way, at least going by reports. There's an attack. There's been attacks, especially around, Catholic priests who move around, who do, of course, others do missionary work, but at a point it was even like, according to them now, that they were being targeted. But be that as it may, just underscores, like you said, the security challenges we have in the country, and it's only a few weeks now to the election that we've all been talking about all this while. Only yesterday at an event, we were cataloging voter turnout over the past two elections. That is, of course, we also spoke about it last week, and the numbers are quite appalling. And if you look at the factors behind why do people collect their cards and don't come out to vote, if you're seeing 34% of registered voters coming out to vote, that should get you worried. And even now we are also hoping that people will do the needful, but the realities on ground are glaring, and government needs to do more. Of course, in the midst of this bad news that we hear, there is some encouraging news of security forces slaying terrorists, slaying bandits, but the grim realities are still there, and begging for more action, more response. Perhaps, or more needed is proactive measures. We don't want response like it has already happened, and security forces are now rushing there, sometimes too late to nip this in the bud. But proactive measures that will make these criminals have a rethink before they strike.
We commend the Nigerian military and all the other security agencies who are working. The DSS is really working on the ground, assisting the police, assisting the military in the forests, Sambisa and all of those areas. They're working against the terrorists and bandits. Now, through December and up until into January, we saw reports of Nigerian military killing, neutralizing. That's the word. That's the term they use. Neutralizing terrorists, bandits here and there, which is an amazing thing, and that has drawn attention to the fact that the bandits are generally on the run. We also heard how some were apprehended in Niger Republic, and we also heard how some even surrendered, to security forces. But however, like we say, the moment there is a killing or there's an abduction or kidnap of one person anywhere in the country, then it still tells you that a lot needs to be done, especially when this happens and the people are not found, and then it takes a day, 2, 3 days, 4 days, a week, and all of that. Recall in Edo State where some train passengers were kidnapped, and we're glad that a lot of them, more rescue were made. But it tells you that the kidnappers held the victims within that territory. They were within that territory. And if the security agencies understand the terrain enough, they should know where these people are within a day, within 24 hours or even 48 hours. Because the point there is that when it's like within a barracks where the soldiers know everywhere that is everywhere. So whenever anything happens, they know where to go and how to go about it and when to go about it and so on. So we expect that security agencies should understand, study the Nigerian terrain, understand the terrain, especially state to state, region to region, village, community to community, and then also work with the traditional rulers, work with other security agents, like we have Amotekun in the southwest, and then Ibubeagu, and all of that, and even the Hisba. The point there is that all of these agencies have come to stay. Edo State has a task force that checks security, within the state and so on. The point there is these people know the terrain. They understand what the communities, the villages, the forests are. So when you work with these people and you understand the terrain, any kind of kidnap or kidnapping that takes place shouldn't go beyond 48 hours before you know or rescue whoever that is involved. Or even if you can't rescue because of the concern of collateral damage, if you engage, but you should know where they are to the level where you can pinpoint and then surround them and then do whatever that has to be done.
True. And if, like you said now, and I can't say it enough, we cannot say, overemphasize it, that there's no how you will look at the security reports now that you will not link it to the forthcoming election. The INEC chairman is quoted as saying that, security, in the light of all these concerns, security lies solely with the Nigeria police. Of course, the unit or this agency will also be assisted, here and there. Even the Nigerian army has also pledged its commitments to ensuring security across the country during these all-important elections. But of course, it also behoves on the people. We've spoken about, the local security networks, that they are also needed at these critical times. And of course, the people also, with the people also really need to do more to be our brother's keeper. If you see something, say something, be suspicious of things around you, strange movements, and make the reports on time.
Yeah. All right. We hope that this will, of course, draw the attention of security agents. And of course, we know that they are doing their work and they are doing everything they can to ensure that security and normalcy is returned to Nigeria.